Every single person has a story and a reason for being here. And for you watching this morning, a reason for joining us over the TV as well.
And at 5 minutes to 7, I can tell you it is a beautiful morning here in London. Skies are simply glorious. This is the live shot where we are this morning at Westminster Abbey. Of course, the focus of much of today's events.
Westminster Abbey, where Queen Elizabeth was married as a young woman, where she was then crowned in 1953, and today where her family and dignitaries and leaders from around the world will gather to say farewell to her ahead of that second service then this afternoon at Windsor Castle.
Yes, Windsor, where the journey ends. We will be live in Windsor in the next half hour here on the programme, but for now, for viewers in the UK, it's time to get the news, the travel and the weather where you are.
Good morning from BBC London. I'm Thomas Magill. More than 10,000 police officers from every force across the UK will be deployed in London later for the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II. With hundreds of world leaders, dignitaries and royalty attending the funeral, as well as an estimated 1 million spectators, it's one of the biggest operations in the capital for decades. Around 2,300 officers will line the route of the Queen's final journey from Westminster Abbey to Windsor Castle in what the Met has described as the final and most complex phase of the operation following the Queen's death.
It is a hugely complex and challenging day for policing. We're expecting a huge number of crowds. And my ask of those who are coming to London is follow the guidance and the advice on the government's website. But when you are here, officers will be engaging and talking to you. I'd ask everybody to keep vigilant, to stay vigilant. And if you see or hear anything that's out of the ordinary, please speak to one of the many officers who will be on duty.
Well, today's events will also mean the capital's transport network could face its busiest day ever, with bosses warning it could be overwhelmed if too many people start to head home once the procession leaves Westminster. With more on that, here's our transport correspondent, Tom Edwards.
Central London is expecting unprecedented numbers today. There will be lots and lots of road closures. Also, the tube is going to run an hour later, although St James's Park, Hyde Park Corner and Westminster are not going to be open. Also, Green Park is going to be exit only. What TfL are worried about is there will be a huge rush of people after the funeral and they'll all rush to the tubes and that will cause problems. They're asking people to stagger their journeys, but it is a big day for Transport for London.
Well, as Tom mentioned, their roads will be very busy and many closed in central London for much of the day. In West London, the A4 and A30 are likely to be closed too. Transport bosses are advising owners of cars parked on those streets to move them before 10 o'clock this morning, as crowds are expected as the Queen's coffin makes its final journey to Windsor. Well, let's take a look at the tube and see how it's running at this time of the morning. And there's a good service on all lines at the moment, a little part suspension on the Elizabeth line. And the weather, Elizabeth Rizzini has that.
Hello there, good morning. With more cloud around last night, then it is a milder start to the day than we saw over the weekend. Some of our temperatures in double figures. Now, for Her Majesty's State funeral today, then it should stay dry or mostly dry, but there will be a lot more cloud around than we saw over the weekend, and there may just be a few spits and spots of drizzle just from the thickness of the cloud, really nothing more than that towards the end of the day in central London and also perhaps in Windsor too. Top temperatures of 17 or 18 degrees Celsius for most of us. Some brighter spells peeping through the cloud at times. Now, as we head through this evening and overnight, then there'll always be a lot of cloud around. Again, it should stay mild. Temperatures, for the most part, will stay in double figures. For the rest of the week, then we are expecting it to stay mostly dry at first. Temperatures will start to come up 19 degrees on Tuesday, maybe the low 20s by Wednesday and Thursday, but cooler, more unsettled towards the end of the week.
Well, I'll be back in half an hour, but you can keep up to date with what's happening in London on BBC. BBC Radio London. Our website also has lots of information about where you can watch today's events if you're not in central London, and more on those road closures. That's bbc.co.uk/London. But for now, let's cross back to Sally and John in Westminster.